EcoFlow related power station video for you guys today. And today we're going to be taking a look at the EcoFlow DELTA 3 Plus portable power station. So this is one of EcoFlow's newest model in one of their version 3 series. Let's go ahead and get it out of the box. And right there on the top, first and foremost, is the device itself. So this accessory box includes all of the necessary cables, charging cables and whatnot for this power station. So if we open that up, we can kind of take a quick look at what we have included. So the first thing included is a XT60i to 12 volt adapter plug. So you can charge this power station in your vehicle using this plug here, which is great. So you can charge it while on the go and you're driving down the road. Then we have that mysterious 5521 barrel jack plug that is always included with nearly every EcoFlow power station. And then last of the cords are this fairly heavy duty AC wall plug to charge it from your house. So coming back down here now to the unit itself, it is actually fairly small. It is very easily portable and can be pulled around, carried around, whatever, with one person super easily. But to give a quick look on the ports, so on the front side here we have 6 120 volt standard outlet plugs. However, only 3 of them are grounded. The top 2 are only 2-prong, so you want to keep that in mind. And then the USB ports, we have 2 USB-C, which both have a 140 watt capability, which is really good. And then we have a pair of USB type A for standard fast charging. And on the top we have the display as well as your power buttons for the main power, AC on and off, and USB on and off. Now moving to the back, we have more ports. So up here we have for ventilation. So you have the same vent on the front. So one side is the intake and the opposite side is the exhaust. Then down below that we have our charging ports for inputting power into the actual device, and then our DC port down at the bottom with its own dedicated power button as well, and then the 3 amp pair of 5521 barrel jacks if you want to charge something through that. But going back up here, we have this little flip down door. You can take that off and it actually allows it to slide in to get it out of the way, which is pretty cool. But in here we have our extra battery port. It only has 1 extra battery port. It does not have 2, so you can only attach 1 extra battery at a time to this particular unit. We also have our dual set of XT60i inputs, which are great. These each support 500 watts of solar, so you can have a total of 1,000 watts of solar coming into this device. And on an ideal condition sunny day, you can theoretically charge this device via solar from 0 to 100% in just over an hour, which is not half bad at all. So then it has the 11 to 60 volt maximum. You do not want to go over that 60 volt maximum, otherwise you could fry the internal charge controllers, which would be bad. Then we have a 15 amp current maximum as well. And then we have our standard 120 volt AC charging plug right there as well. Now, quickly, since I did not mention it before in the start of the video, this particular power station is a 1024 watt hour capacity battery. And it also has an 1800 watt inverter that can surge up to in the 2000 watt range with the X boost mode. And like I've said before, the X boost mode, you want to be careful because what X boost does is it drops a voltage, which could be detrimental to sensitive electronics such as computers. So you want to make sure to not use X boost if you have a computer or sensitive electronic device connected to the power station. X boost is really primarily used for power tools or refrigerators or freezers or something that has a fairly high draw and or may have a fairly high surge load. Flipping it back around here to the front, if we go ahead and turn it on for the first time, so the main power button is this one right in the middle. Push it, and then it'll beep, and it'll give you your display. So on the left side, you have your input wattage. That'll be your charging of the actual power station from whether it be solar, AC, DC, and such. Right side has your output, so this is how much is outputting to a device you have connected. And in the middle has your battery percentage as well as some animation graphics on either side. So now let's go ahead and jump over real quick to the setup process via the EcoFlow app. Now keep in mind the EcoFlow app is not required to use this portable power station. It's primarily just there so you can change some of the extra features and manage it remotely. But if you want to use this without the app, you are absolutely able to do so. You can just, such as is right now, it's turned on. You can plug something straight in and it'll start working immediately. But in this case, the next section of this video is going to be setting the device up via the EcoFlow app. So let's go ahead and jump over and do that. So let's go ahead and jump into the EcoFlow app now. What you want to do first, if you don't already have the app, is you want to go and download it from your respective app store, whether you have an iPhone or an Android device. Make sure you have that downloaded. Then once you have it downloaded, go ahead and open it up. And from in here, that's actually my Delta 2 Max that I currently have charging at the moment. But once you have it open, you won't see any devices in here, obviously, because you're starting fresh. But however, if you're someone like me that does have already some devices in here, you're going to be already familiar with how to do this process. But anyway, once it finds the device, it's going to automatically prompt you to set it up and add it to your device list. So I'm going to go ahead and hit add, and you're going to hear a beep, which is letting you know it's going to start the pairing process to your phone. So you have a couple of options here. You can set it up to your Wi-Fi network if you want to remotely monitor the device outside of your home network, which is something that I personally like to do if you're going to be using this at home as some sort of a home backup unit. But if you're someone that doesn't need that or want that, you can also just easily control it via Bluetooth locally through your phone as well. However, in my case, I'm going to connect it to Wi-Fi. And we're going to go ahead and hit next. And it's going to go through the network setup process. And basically pair the unit to the local Wi-Fi network. Go. It once again beeps, letting you know that the pairing process was complete. It has now bounded it to my phone, and we are done. So we can hit done. And then again, we have the space. So you can select a space that you want to put the device into. I'm currently just going to put it into my truck camping space since it's easiest, so I can just look at it and see all my devices in one area. I'm going to put it in here, hit done. And then we have two different options for homepage style. So we have the default, which is kind of the energy flow style that lets you see the statistics and a little bit of a cool animation of power coming in and out. Then you have this section here, which is where basically this view gives you more fine-grained control and a little bit more information at your fingertips. I kind of prefer this one because of how much information it shows on one particular page. So I'm going to hit select current. And then we have the charge and discharge limit indicators. It's giving you a tip on that if you happen to have that set. Currently it doesn't have one. It's just set for 0% all the way to 100. And just like that, we are now set up and ready to use the device via the app. What's cool about the Delta 3 Plus and just the 3 series of the EcoFlow power stations is the fact that they give you a real-time power graph right here that basically gives you statistics. So it allows you to track your solar input and see how much is generated on a daily basis and or over a weekly, monthly, or yearly basis, which is super helpful. Then it lets you check how much AC power you have used, as well as other devices, such as other EcoFlow devices, such as extra batteries, car charging, and or the smart generator if you happen to have one of those. So really, really cool to be able to do that. So that's the input page. And again, below that, you have each individual little section, so you can monitor those on their own. And you can slide over just like so and check your output and also get us the same real-time output graph and have statistics for the same thing as well. And then you have the buttons down below that to turn your AC, 12 volt, and USB ports on and off. So if we hit this, You can see it'll turn the AC inverter on, push it again, turns it off. Same thing for 12 volt and USB. Pretty cool. And then lastly up here, if you hit the time remaining, this gives you just a little bit more information about the actual battery itself. So it gives you the percentage again, obviously, shows you the total capacity in watt hours, and then the battery temperature, which is great to be able to see so you can monitor if the battery may be overheating in some way. So that is basically it for the initial setup of the Delta 3 Plus. I will have a little bit more fine-grained review of this app at a later time, going over some of the more features and or settings that you can modify for this device. As you can see, we have a lot of different options, something like Storm Guard, which is great actually. So if you're going to be using it for home backup and a storm is coming, you can turn that on and have it automatically charge up to 100% to be ready for a potential power outage. So yeah, lots of cool features to be able to modify in here. But again, I'll go through that in a separate dedicated video. Okay, so continuing with this section of the video for the Delta 3 Plus. The way I have this currently set up is I'm using the Delta 3 Plus as basically a secondary unit for a primary unit. So my primary unit is a Delta 2 Max, which sits on the bottom, and it is the one that supplies pretty much to my entire house, excluding my very large loads such as the electric water heater, the full-size cooktop oven, and things like that. But everything else, it basically powers it. Microwave, refrigerator, small-size air conditioning unit, things like that. So the Delta 3 Plus, however, though, the inverter on it is basically only used to supply power to the Delta 2 Max. And the reason for that is I'm primarily using the Delta 3 as a quote-unquote extra battery for the main unit on the bottom. But the reason I opted to do a full power station unit rather than just get an extra battery for the Delta 2 Max is because you can set it up in the way that I have it to pretty much feed power from this to the main unit, just like you would if you had an extra battery connected, but you also get the extra features and capabilities of having a full separate unit. So you get a completely separate secondary inverter in addition to the one for the main unit, a USB ports, all the stuff. You also get a informative display, and you get all the settings and control that you would get from a full power station, but you're using it as a secondary extra battery in my case. So real quick to recap, I have again the Delta 2 Max on the back here, the back of this unit. It's, like I said, supplying the power to all of my appliances and or devices from here. And then I have, again, the AC plug from the Delta 2 Max going into the inverter of the Delta 3 Plus. And that charges the Delta 2 Max during the day. Now at night, I have it automatically set up to turn the inverter of the Delta 3 off, and then automatically turn the DC 12 volt outlet on, which then again supplies a consistent 100 watts, or you can customize that actually. You can have it from 50 watts, 70 watts, or 100 watts, depending on what you want the output to be. But I have it currently set to around 100 watts to output from the Delta 3 Plus into the DC charge port of the Delta 2 Max to basically supplement its battery through the night. So it will basically allow it to run all night with my current loads that I have running that continue throughout the night, such as the refrigerator and stuff. And it'll keep this battery topped up. So then by morning, the Delta 3 Plus will actually be it'll be empty, it'll be dead essentially, no longer providing power. And then the main unit takes over, it'll supply power until solar starts to come back into play. And then this starts to charge via solar, so I actually do have my solar coming into the Delta 3 Plus unit because it actually has a better solar tracking capability and statistics, which I kind of like. But I could actually put solar into both of these units if I so chose to do, which I kind of plan to do in the future just to get more input power. But yeah, so I have it set up to do that. If we look at the display here, so currently the Delta 2 Max unit is indeed charging from this particular one, from the AC adapter. And then there's also basically right at about 600 watts of solar coming in. So basically the Delta 3 Plus is currently charging, and the Delta 2 Max is also charging, both of these via solar, which is great. And if we turn on the display of this main unit here, you can see it also is charging and has roughly 1 hour left until it's fully charged, which is pretty great. But now I have it automated. Like I said, I have it set up to do this automatically. So if we go onto my phone here, go to the EcoFlow app, and you'll see both of the units listed. The Delta 2 Max is just sitting there charging and siphoning power from this unit. But if I go in here into the Delta 3 Plus, you can see all the statistics, the solar power coming in, and such as that, the output power going out via AC. But the automation settings, if we go up here to the settings icon, scroll down, and under scheduled tasks right here, I have it set for the AC inverter to turn on at 10 o'clock in the morning and shut off at 5 o'clock in the evening, 5 p.m. So 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. is when the inverter will be on. And then 10 minutes later, so at 5:10 p.m., the 12-volt DC port on the Delta 3 Plus will turn on automatically and start supplying the 100 watts of power. And then that will, again, like I said, run all night, sustaining all the load that I have, an idle load, I should say, throughout the night. And then we'll turn off at 6 a.m. if the battery of the Delta 3 Plus has not already been depleted. Usually around 4 to 5 o'clock in the morning, the Delta 3 Plus will actually get depleted and will be out of battery. And I have it set to a 10% charge limit just to make sure that the unit does not fully power off, so I can continue to monitor it. But yeah, so that's how that's set up. And then again, the following day at 10 a.m., the inverter will kick back on to supply around 400 watts to the Delta 2 Max to start charging it up. And so what'll happen is the Delta 2 Max will start to charge, and it'll charge up first. And then once it's charged, the Delta 3 Plus will automatically start to feed that output that was going to the main unit. It'll put it into its own self, and then it'll charge itself roughly within an hour and a half or so after that. So basically, with this setup that I have here and the current loads that I put on it on a daily basis, this right here is 100% solar powered and basically does not need to have any grid power coming in, unless it's an emergency or if there's a lot of cloud cover, then in which case I would have to use grid power. But if the grid were to go down or the power somehow went out for several days, this actually would be able to power most of my home or most of my studio or whatever for that several days. As long as there's adequate sun, it'll be able to run all of that indefinitely, which is really cool. And then the last part of this is I have the Delta 3 Plus's AC power cord going up here and going into this wall outlet. Like I said, in those cases where the grid power will be needed, if solar is inadequate for whatever reason, I can pull power from the grid right here. And then the other thing is I have it connected to a smart plug, so I can basically turn the plug on and off remotely via my phone. So if I'm not at home and I notice the batteries are low and there's not enough solar, I can remotely turn this smart plug thing on and it'll automatically start charging this entire setup on its own, which is cool. And then when it's done, I can remotely turn the plug off to cut power to the batteries. So that's just a little bit of information there. But yeah, it's really cool. It's a really, really cool setup. And like I said, for the last couple of days, it's been working perfectly and has been supplying everything 100% solar, which is really great. And just as a side note, I know some of you are going to probably comment about this. This messy wire setup that I've got going on over here is not permanent. I'm not sure that this is where these batteries are going to live. I might put them somewhere else just to kind of get them out of the way. But yeah, these wires are not going to be permanent like this. I'm going to clean this up and get it a much more nice and tidy, not so messy looking thing. But anyway, yeah, that is currently how I'm using the Delta 3 Plus. So one more little piece of information here that I forgot to add is, like I said, I do have this River 2 Pro unit, which is the smaller unit, which I use primarily for camping. But in an absolute emergency, if for some reason solar is not adequate enough and the grid power is for whatever reason down or the power's out, I'm also planning I could use this unit here sitting on top and either supply, I could supply DC power from up to 100 watts from this into one of these two other units to expand the overall capacity even further than what it is currently, which is pretty handy. So yeah, this is, I think, a 768 watt hour battery, so that would basically add 768 watt hours to the 3000 watt hours that I have down below. So with these three units tied into one another, there's a total of roughly 3700 or almost 3800 watt hours of battery capacity that could be used. So yeah, I just want to kind of add that into there as well. So you have a lot of opportunity or options that you can do. If you have multiple power stations, you can actually kind of daisy chain them together to increase your overall battery capacity if you need more backup for your various devices. Anyway, so that, I just want to add that little bit of an extra tip in there. Anyway, let's go ahead and now go outside and take a look at the solar panels that are currently powering this setup. All right, and now here are my solar panels that I was talking about earlier. These are 4 200 watt eco-worthy rigid panels. They are also bifacial, meaning that you can pick up some solar power from both the front and the back. And then here is the wire that I have going from the inside through the wall to the outside to both of the arrays. And so these are the monocrystalline panels, and they are made of tempered glass, so they have a good durability. And then here is the connections that I have. So I have the two panels connected into series, and then them going through each side to the positive negative with the MC4 connectors to one of the extension cables that go into the house to the battery. And then here is the underside for that bifacial aspect. And then if we move over to the other secondary array, it is wired in the exact same way in a series for the two panels, and then positive negative going to that MC4 extension cable, again a second cable that goes to the interior for the battery setup. Now these could also be done in a series parallel to come through one port, but that is not how I have it set up in this case. So yeah, so that there is the solar setup that I have at the moment. Like I said, I expect to, or plan to, expand that out once I get more battery capacity than what I have, because obviously it'll take longer to charge with the current panels that I have. So anyway, that's it for this video. Hope you guys have enjoyed and found it pretty interesting and or informative. And yeah, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, all of those helps out the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one.